Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. आज की फ्लाइट में आप सबका स्वागत है। हमारा क्रू आपका बहुत ख्याल रखेगा, लेकिन आपसे एक निवेदन है कि अपनी चोली टाइटली बांध लें ताकि दिल बाहर ना गिर जाए।
My lips were locked with a girl I barely knew, but in that moment, she felt like everything. I lost myself in the rhythm of the kiss, feeling the warmth of her body pressed against mine as the crowd roared around us. Just as I was about to deepen the kiss, I felt a jolt of surprise when my lips landed on another girl as she pulled me. This kiss was more intense, deeper, and it pulled me in like a tide. My hands roamed, exploring the contours of her waist, as if I were trying to memorize the feeling of her against me. But then, a distant shout broke through the haze, calling my name. Taehyung. The voice was persistent, cutting through the heat of the kiss like ice water. I tried to ignore it, to lose myself again, but the shouting grew closer. It was my friend Noah, his voice rising above the noise of the crowd. Taehyung, the race is about to start. My heart sank for a moment, caught between the thrill of the kiss and the reality of the impending race. I sighed, reluctantly breaking the kiss, my lips lingering on hers for just a second longer. Noah shouted again, frustration seeping into his tone. Are you serious? Get over here, the bike race is starting now. With a resigned sigh, I nodded, though I was still momentarily dazed. As I turned to follow him, I caught one last glimpse of the girl, her eyes sparkling with mischief. As we approached the starting line, I sat on my bike, adjusting my gloves as Noah kept talking nonstop beside me. Dude, this race is huge. You know how much I've got riding on this. Don't mess it up, alright? Tightening my grip on the handlebars, I glanced at him with a small smirk. Relax, Noah, you know who I am. He shot me a grin, the tension easing as we exchanged the words we always did before a race. Demon Rider, he said with a nod, and I repeated it under my breath. It wasn't just a nickname. It was a title I'd earned. I wasn't just fast, I didn't let anyone get close. I owned the track. The sharp crack of the starting gun rang out, and I twisted the throttle, feeling the surge of power beneath me. The roar of engines filled the air as we shot off the line, the rush of adrenaline kicking in. The world around me blurred as I leaned into the bike, the wind whipping against my helmet. Every turn, every straightaway felt like second nature. I didn't just race to win, I raced because it was the only time everything else faded away. And like always, I left the competition in the dust. The finish line loomed ahead, and I crossed it easily, the roar of the crowd barely registering as I pulled to a stop. Noah was already there, grinning like a maniac. Hell yeah, he shouted, throwing his arms around me in a tight hug. I knew you'd do it. I laughed, pulling off my helmet. Did you ever doubt me? I asked, my voice light but teasing. Across from us, my competitor looked pissed, tossing a wad of cash at Noah in frustration. He stuffed the money into his pocket, still grinning, and then, with a dramatic flourish, he turned to me. Taehyung, please marry me, he said, holding out his arms like he was proposing. I rolled my eyes, chuckling. Not in this lifetime, man. Just as I was about to respond with something more sarcastic, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and froze. Shit, I muttered. It was my brother, Soo-jin. If he had any idea what I was up to right now, I'd be dead. I stepped away from the noise of the race, finding a quieter spot where I could hear him. It was late here, but in Korea, it was morning. I took a breath and answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, Hung. I knew that. Taehyung, what are you still doing up? It's the middle of the night over there, he said, suspicion creeping into his voice. I faked a yawn, trying to sound half asleep. Oh, you know, I was just about to go to sleep, I lied, hoping he wouldn't press further. He let out a soft laugh. Yeah, sure, anyway, when are you coming back to Korea? Dad's been asking. I leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. Soon, Hung, I'm ready to be back. And I can't wait to meet my future sister-in-law, I added with a grin. He chuckled, his tone softening. Come back soon, I'm actually planning to propose. A genuine smile crept onto my face. Seriously, that's awesome, I'll be there, don't worry. After ending the call with Soo-jin, I slipped my phone back into my pocket and made my way toward Noah. He was deep in conversation with a few guys, probably wrapping up some bets. As I approached, he glanced up and gave me a wide grin. Nice win, man. The girl I had been kissing earlier appeared beside us, her eyes gleaming as she congratulated me. I smirked, leaning in closer to her. You know, I whispered, I'm not just the best on the bike, I'm even better in bed. Her eyes darkened with interest, a look of desire flickering in them. She moved in to kiss me again, but I stopped her, pulling back just before our lips met. Her disappointment was obvious, but I didn't care. I turned away, walking over to my bike and throwing my leg over it. Noah watched the whole thing and followed me, leaning on his car, shaking his head with a chuckle. Why do you always leave them hanging after dropping those cheesy lines? I smiled, glancing back at him. Better I break their hearts before they break mine. He laughed, shaking his head as we both got ready to leave. The engines roared to life, and we drove off into the night, leaving the crowd and chaos behind us. When I got back to my apartment, it was quiet. I kicked off my boots and collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling for a moment, letting the silence sink in. The room felt empty, too quiet, too cold. I glanced around and spotted the unfinished puzzle sitting on the coffee table, the frame missing that one crucial piece. That damn missing puzzle always made me feel off. Like something was missing, not just in the puzzle, but in me too. Sitting up, I ran my hand through my hair and muttered to myself, where the hell is she? Jane's paw. I walked through the busy university corridor, blending into the stream of students. The usual buzz surrounded me, people talking, laughing, rushing to classes. But then something caught my attention at the far corner of the hall. A group of juniors was huddled around 3 figures on the floor, 2 girls and a guy, all looking like they'd been through hell. Their clothes were stained with juice, ketchup, and God knows what else. The boys standing over them were laughing, tossing more drinks and food, mocking them. It was a pathetic scene. I sighed, feeling my patience wear thin. It wasn't the first time I'd seen something like this. As I walked toward the group, the juniors noticed me coming and froze, stepping back slightly. I knew they recognized me. Their wide eyes said enough. I was Jane, the one person they probably feared more than anyone at this university. Behind them, I saw 4 familiar faces leaning casually against the wall: Jimin, Jasper, Jungkook, and J-Hope. They were watching the scene with amused smirks, clearly entertained by what was happening. As I approached, I crossed my arms. What the hell is going on here? I asked, my voice sharp, cutting through the noise. The juniors quickly lowered their heads, unsure of what to say. I crouched down, looking at the 2 girls who were now trembling, their eyes pleading for help. The guy beside them wasn't much better off, his head hanging in shame as ketchup dripped from his hair. I glanced back at the boys who had been bullying them. Is this how you treat people? I asked, shaking my head in disappointment. Disgusting. Relief flashed across the faces of the 2 girls. I could almost feel them relax. I bent down and grabbed the ketchup bottle off the floor. Let me help, I said softly. Before they could react, I grabbed one of the girls by the face, forcing her mouth open with my fingers. Her eyes widened in horror, and she tried to pull away, but my grip was too strong. Open wide, I muttered, and I squeezed the ketchup bottle, forcing the thick, red sauce into her mouth as she gagged and choked. Behind me, I could hear Jimin and the others laughing, their voices echoing through the corridor. The juniors who had been bullying them stood frozen, too stunned to even move. The girl struggled in my grasp, but I kept going until the bottle was almost empty. When I finally let her go, she coughed violently, ketchup smeared all over her face. The other girl was sobbing, shaking uncontrollably. I stood up, wiping my hands on my jeans, and turned to face my squad. Jimin, I said with a smirk, maybe you should teach your juniors how to bully properly. Jimin laughed, stepping forward to ruffle my hair. You're something else, Jane. Jasper, always ready for more fun, grinned at me. What do you want to do with them this time, princess? I looked down at the trembling trio, who were now practically begging with their eyes. The satisfaction I felt was almost intoxicating. I turned to Jasper, my lips curling into a cold smile. If I told you to kill them, would you? Jasper's grin widened, and he took a step forward, ready to carry out my orders. But before he could go any further, Jungkook placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. Jasper darling, she said, Jungkook said with a teasing smile. I chuckled at the exchange, watching as Jasper stepped back with a grin. Jane. I turned and saw Soo-jin, my boyfriend, walking toward me with that familiar smile. Oh, my babe, you were here. I was searching for you, he said, his voice warm as always. I smiled and leaned in to plant a quick kiss on his cheek. He grinned at me, but then his eyes shifted to the trio still huddled together, looking pathetic on the floor. He glanced back at me, a slight question in his eyes. What's going on? I just shrugged, playing it off like it was no big deal. Just a little fun, darling, I said, my smile innocent. But before I could brush it off completely, the trio, desperate as ever, turned to Soo-jin. Soo-jin, please, help us. We were all friends once, right? Please, Soo-jin. I raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering in my eyes as I turned to Soo-jin. Is that right? You were their friend? Soo-jin let out a light laugh, shaking his head as if the idea was ridiculous. They were just classmates in high school, nothing more, he said casually, dismissing their pleas without a second thought. I nodded, satisfied with his response. Soo-jin, completely ignoring them now, gently took my hand. Love, you must be hungry. Let's go get something to eat, he suggested, his tone soft as he focused back on me. I smiled at him but shook my head. I have to go somewhere with my friends, I said, glancing over at Jimin, Jasper, Jungkook, and J-Hope. Soo-jin looked confused for a second. Where? He asked, his brows knitting together. Before I could answer, J-Hope walked up with a sly grin and said, it's confidential. I chuckled at his dramatic flair. Nothing serious, Soo-jin, just practicing for the race, I said with a wink. Soo-jin nodded, though I could see the hint of curiosity still lingering in his expression. But he didn't push it. He smiled and watched as I walked away with my friends, the trio still lingering behind him, forgotten. As I walked away with my squad, the atmosphere shifted. J-Hope, ever the one to speak his mind, broke the silence first. How long is this game with Soojin gonna last? His question made me chuckle. Without missing a beat, I smirked and replied, the game of hearts isn't easy to play, Hope. But soon, I'll end it. They all laughed, the sound low and knowing, as if they were all in on the same secret. We knew what this was, just another game. But I was in control, and when the time was right, I'd have the final move. The sun was high above as I walked down the campus courtyard, flanked by my squad, Jimin, Jasper, Jungkook, and J-Hope. We were a force of our own, turning heads as we moved. I could feel the eyes on us, the whispers that followed. But none of that mattered anymore. I was Jane, stronger, sharper, and untouchable. Yes, I am the only sister of 4 brothers, Seokjin, Namjoon, Suga, and Jungkook. And my brothers, they're legends in their own right. But I am more than just their sister. I am the heart of my closest friends, Jimin, Jasper, and J-Hope. Together, we've built something powerful, something unbreakable. My name carries weight now, but not for the reasons people would expect. My life wasn't always like this. In fact, if I told you what I lived through before, you wouldn't believe me. Even I find it hard to remember that girl sometimes, the girl who was once broken, afraid, and vulnerable. She doesn't exist anymore. She's gone, buried deep beneath layers of strength and determination. What stands here now is a different person altogether, a girl who no longer fills her eyes with sympathy or regret. I've learned the hard way that life is a game, and in this world, it's a cruel one. People will step on you, crush you, and smile while doing it. But not me, not anymore. If you want to live among the cruel, you have to become the cruelest one of all. If you don't want to be crushed by the strong, you have to become stronger, unbreakable. I walk with purpose, my head held high, my feet steady on the ground. Every step I take now is toward one goal, to smash those who once tried to smash me. My past haunts me, but it also fuels me, pushing me forward with a fire that won't die. I'm not here for second chances or redemption. I'm here for revenge. Author's paw. As the heavy glass doors of the university swung open, 5 figures emerged in unison, immediately drawing the attention of everyone in the courtyard. They moved with an effortless confidence, their presence commanding the space as though they owned it. 2 girls standing by the entrance stared in shock, unable to tear their eyes away from the group. One of them, a petite brunette, let her jaw drop. Who are they? She asked, her voice barely audible over the soft gasps from the crowd. They're the J Squad, her friend answered with a low whisper, eyes wide. You're lucky if you never end up in their path. The brunette frowned, still confused. J Squad. Her friend sighed, turning to face her fully. See that girl in the center? She pointed subtly. That's Jane. She's their picky princess, or more like their queen. Whatever she says is an order, and whatever she does becomes a rule here at the university. And trust me, you don't want to get on her bad side. She practically runs this place. The brunette looked closer at Jane, who walked ahead of the group like a ruler surveying her kingdom. Jane's dark brown hair cascaded down her shoulders, perfectly styled, and her piercing eyes, framed by delicate makeup, gave her an icy, untouchable look. She wore a tailored black coat, cinched at the waist, and designer boots that clicked authoritatively with each step she took. There was a fierce beauty in her confidence, but something about the way she carried herself screamed danger. Okay, but what about the guys? The brunette asked, still captivated by the intimidating group of men flanking Jane. Her friend smirked. Those are her brother and her friends. The guy on her right, wearing that long black coat. That's Jimin, her friend. He's a senior and one of the most popular guys on campus. He's smooth, and his looks kill. See how he's always a little too calm? That's because he's the one who knows how to play both sides, charming and ruthless when he needs to be. Jimin's face was a study in contradiction. Soft, cherubic features, yet his smirk hinted at something darker beneath the surface. His eyes, sharp and calculating, seemed to be constantly scanning his surroundings, always aware, always in control. His black coat swung slightly as he walked, the rich fabric emphasizing his lean, muscular frame. And next to him, her friend continued, that's Jungkook, her brother. He's built like a wall, and I heard he's been training since high school. Look at him, tall, broad shoulders, arms that could crush someone, and let's just say he doesn't take kindly to people messing with Jane. Jungkook's physique was as impressive as it was intimidating. His fitted leather jacket clung to his muscular body, accentuating his powerful build. Dark hair fell over his forehead, almost hiding his intense eyes. His entire presence radiated raw strength, the kind of force that could shut down any challenge before it even began. And then there's J-Hope, her friend pointed to the guy on Jane's left. He doesn't say much, but he doesn't have to. He's the quiet type, but if anyone dares cross Jane or the group, he's the first to take action. People think he's the most dangerous of them all because he never warns you, he just strikes. J-Hope was dressed in a sleek brown turtleneck and coat, a sharp contrast to his otherwise easygoing expression. His silence wasn't passive, though, it was deliberate, as though he was calculating every move before making it. His eyes were sharp, and his presence alone was enough to make people uneasy. The brunette looked even more curious now. And the last one? She asked, eyeing the guy walking just behind Jane. Her friend's tone lowered as if revealing a secret. That's Jasper, her friend. He's not related to Jane by blood, but he's like her right-hand man, her magic stick, people say. Whatever she wants, he does. No questions asked. There's a rumor he beat up a professor once, just because he shouted at Jane. He's completely loyal to her. Jasper's angular jawline, green eyes, and tousled black hair gave him a striking look. His style was less polished than the others, but his relaxed confidence made him just as intimidating. His gaze followed Jane closely, as though always ready to step in at her command. The brunette's eyes widened at her friend's revelation. They sound like they run the whole university, but what if someone stands up to them? Her friend chuckled darkly. No one does. Jane's elders brothers are part of the trustees here. She has more power than you think. If she doesn't like you, you're out. No questions asked, no second chances. She can destroy your life here, and no one can touch her. It's why no one even tries. The brunette's gaze followed the J Squad as they strode across the courtyard, students parting like waves to let them pass. The group's aura was magnetic, yet terrifying. They were not just students, they were a force of power, feared by everyone who knew them. On the other hand, Soo-jin turned to the junior boys still standing around the trio. His voice was calm but firm as he said, "Leave them alone. Now." The boys, not daring to question him, quickly nodded and scattered, leaving the trio behind. They were now standing, trying to fix their messy clothes, wiping off the ketchup and juice that had been thrown at them. One of the boys, Woo Bin, looked at Soo-jin with frustration in his eyes. "Why did you lie to her?" he asked, his voice shaking with anger and hurt. "We were friends once, remember? Why didn't you tell her the truth?" Soo-jin sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. He looked at Woo Bin, his expression tired. "That was the past, Woo Bin. Our friendship ended when we all transferred after that accident. Things change. Don't think just because we were friends then, that I'm going to save you now." A girl from the trio, her eyes filled with desperation, stepped forward. "Soo-jin, you're her boyfriend. She'll listen to you if you tell her to stop. We've been suffering ever since she came. It's been a year now. Please, Soo-jin, help us." Soo-jin looked at her, his expression conflicted for a moment, but then he sighed again, heavier this time. "I can't lose her," he said quietly. "And even if I told her to stop, she wouldn't listen. I may be her boyfriend, but when it comes to the J Squad, I don't hold the same power. The respect I've gotten from them, it's new. Something I never had before, even when we were friends. I can't risk losing that. I can't lose her." His voice hardened slightly as he finished, guilt flashing briefly across his face. "I'm sorry, but I can't help you." With that, Soo-jin turned on his heel and walked away, leaving the trio standing there, defeated and alone. Jane's paw. The evening air was thick with the hum of our bikes as we gathered on the practice ground. I stood in the middle, my J Squad flanking me on both sides. We were all dressed in black jackets and jeans, the uniform of our crew. It was just us in the open road ahead, the race between us and no one else. A test of skill, loyalty, and maybe a little fun. I looked left to right, taking in the sight of my squad. Jasper caught my eye and smirked. "No cheating, princess," he teased. I chuckled, giving him a wink. "I'm a drift angel, Jasper. I don't cheat. It's Jimin who always pulls something sneaky." They all laughed, the sound carrying through the night air. Jimin just rolled his eyes, knowing it was true. With a shared glance, we revved our engines, and the familiar sound of a gunshot signaled the start. The roar of the bikes echoed as we sped off, the wind pushing against us. They tried to gain speed, but I wasn't one to be left behind. Once again, I crossed the finish line first. Whether they let me win or I genuinely outpaced them, who knew? All I knew was that I was the first one there, as always. I pulled off my helmet, my hair falling loose as I turned to face them with a playful pout. "Don't you guys feel like dying after losing to a girl?" I teased, unable to hide the smirk playing on my lips. The squad burst out laughing, the camaraderie between us stronger than the race. Jungkook, still catching his breath, grinned and said, "Oh, Jane, it was just practice. Tonight, we'll see who really wins." I made a playful face at him, pretending to be offended, but deep down, I knew. Tonight or any other night, I had no plans of losing. We were all sitting by the side of the road, our bikes parked in a line, relaxing after the race. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over us as we chatted about random things. Jungkook, though, was off to the side, busy texting someone. I glanced at him, curiosity getting the best of me. "Is she beautiful?" I asked, teasing him without thinking much of it. Without hesitation, he answered, "Yes," and we all burst out laughing. Jungkook looked up, realizing what he'd just admitted. He coughed, trying to recover. I raised an eyebrow at him, leaning in with a smirk. "Sue, who is she?" Jungkook hesitated for a moment, clearly flustered. "Yuna," he finally admitted. I made an exaggerated, "oh" face and teased, "Your classmate." He nodded sheepishly. J-Hope, always the instigator, chimed in, "You know her father and your brothers are rivals in business, right?" Jungkook sighed and nodded again. "That's why she keeps rejecting me." I smiled, leaning back against my bike. If someone really loves you, they won't care about the world. They'll just want to create a world with you. The squad went silent for a moment, and then, as if on cue, they all turned to me, exclaiming in unison, "Our baby's grown up." I laughed, shaking my head at their teasing, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was 𝘏𝑈𝐤. My eyes widened as I remembered. Crap, I totally forgot about my piano class. Clearing my throat, I quickly picked up the call, trying to act like I hadn't completely spaced out. 𝘏𝑈𝐤's voice came through the phone, warm and familiar, but with a slight edge of concern. Jane, sweetheart, where are you? I smiled as I leaned back against my bike. I'm with the J Squad, Oppa. He hummed softly in response, but his tone shifted to something more serious. I heard you skipped your piano class today. My heart skipped a beat as I quickly glanced around, guilt setting in. Oppa, I'm sorry. I completely forgot. There was a pause before he spoke again, a little more stern this time. Alright, but what about your other classes? I've been hearing you've been missing them too. What's going on? My eyes darted to Jungkook, knowing full well he'd probably been the one reporting my absences to our brothers. He had that innocent look, pretending to be completely unaware of the situation, but I knew better. Panic set in as I tried to think of a way to deflect the conversation before 𝘏𝑈𝐤 could grill me further. That's when the perfect idea hit me. With as much fake drama as I could muster, I wailed into the phone, Oppa. Jungkook and Jimin are kissing. For a split second, everything froze. The J Squad, who had been lazily chatting around me, all snapped to attention, their jaws dropping in shock. Jungkook's eyes widened in pure disbelief, while Jimin's mischievous grin slowly started to spread across his face. Through the phone, 𝘏𝑈𝐤's voice exploded. What? I couldn't help but smile triumphantly as I extended the phone toward Jungkook, who looked at me like I'd just betrayed him on a whole new level. His face was a mixture of horror and confusion as he snatched the phone from me. 𝘏𝑈𝐤, it's not like that, I swear, Jungkook started, his voice frantic as he tried to explain. But just as he was about to defend himself, Jimin, ever the troublemaker, leaned in close to Jungkook's face and, loud enough for 𝘏𝑈𝐤 to hear, purred, Jungkook, I love how soft your lips are. Jungkook's face turned a deep shade of red as he shot a glare at Jimin, but it was too late. I bit down on my lip, trying so hard not to laugh, while the rest of the J Squad started shaking with silent laughter. Jungkook, clearly flustered, kicked Jimin, which only made Jimin laugh harder. Jimin's just messing around. It's not like that, I swear. Jungkook pleaded into the phone. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The sight of Jungkook's red face and Jimin's teasing smirk made me burst into laughter, followed by the rest of the squad. Even Jasper, who was usually more composed, was clutching his stomach, trying not to fall off his bike from laughing so hard. On the other end of the phone, 𝘏𝑈𝐤 was still fuming, but I could tell he wasn't sure whether to believe what he was hearing or not. Jungkook, you better not be messing around with Jimin like that. He shouted, but there was a hint of exasperation in his voice, like he knew he'd been played. Jungkook groaned in frustration as Jimin dramatically batted his eyelashes at him, still playing along. Oh, Jungkookie, don't be shy. Tell 𝘏𝑈𝐤 how much you love me. I was practically in tears from laughing so hard at this point. Jungkook, utterly done with the situation, shoved the phone back at me. Here, you deal with this, he muttered, shooting me a glare that only made me laugh harder. I took the phone back, trying to compose myself, but the laughter still bubbled in my chest. Oppa, it was just a joke. Don't be mad. 𝘏𝑈𝐤 sighed deeply on the other end. You guys are impossible, just get to class tomorrow, Jane. I grinned. Yes, I promise. Love you, Oppa. He grumbled something under his breath before hanging up, and as soon as the call ended, we all collapsed into laughter again. Jungkook was still red, shooting daggers at Jimin, who couldn't stop grinning. Seriously, you guys are the worst, Jungkook muttered, but even he couldn't help the small smile tugging at his lips. Come on, Jungkook, you love us, I teased, wiping away a tear from laughing so hard. Yeah, he sighed, shaking his head. But next time, leave me out of your dramas. We all laughed again, knowing full well that wouldn't happen anytime soon. The night air was cool and thick with anticipation as we stood at the starting line. The race was between me, Jungkook, Jasper, and a few other opponents, our rivals who were always itching to take us down. The engines of our bikes roared to life, their growls echoing across the dark streets. I gripped the handlebars, my fingers tightening around the throttle, adrenaline pulsing through my veins. As the gunshot signaled the start of the race, we surged forward, the world around us blurring into a stream of lights and shadows. I pushed my bike harder, faster, weaving through the others as I gained momentum. My heart raced, my mind focused solely on the finish line ahead. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed one of my opponents pulling up dangerously close. Before I could react, I felt a sharp jolt. He kicked the side of my bike, trying to throw me off balance. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't slow down. Fucking cheaters, I muttered under my breath, gripping the bike tighter and accelerating even faster. There was no way I was letting them win, not tonight. I leaned forward, letting the wind whip against my face as I gained speed. My bike roared beneath me, and within seconds, I shot past the others, crossing the finish line with a surge of triumph. I skidded to a halt, pulling off my helmet as the adrenaline coursed through me. I won. I shouted, feeling a rush of excitement, like it was my first victory all over again. Even though I'd won countless times before, beating the J Squad always gave me a thrill that never got old. As I looked up, I spotted Soo-jin, Jimin, and J-Hope waiting for me near the finish line, their faces lit up with pride. Without thinking, I sprinted towards them, my heart still racing from the adrenaline of the race. Soo-jin grinned and caught me in his arms, lifting me off the ground as he spun me around. "Congratulations, baby," he said, his voice warm and filled with pride. I smiled at him and he leaned down, pressing a kiss against my lips. "Fine, kiss me all you want, Soo-jin, because tomorrow, you'll regret it." As he pulled back, Jimin and J-Hope were already there, pulling me into a group hug. "Wow, Jane, Drift Angel really is the perfect title for you," Jimin said with a grin. I chuckled, feeling the warmth of their praise, but my attention quickly shifted. I turned my head, looking for Jasper and Jungkook. Something didn't feel right, but before I could move, J-Hope stepped in front of me, blocking my view. "Let's go to the club," he said casually, his tone light but his actions a little too deliberate. He was trying to keep me distracted. Confused, I nodded slowly, my gaze flicking back to where I'd last seen Jasper and Jungkook. I tried to peer around J-Hope, but he smoothly shifted, blocking my line of sight again. My suspicion grew, and just as I was about to push past him, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. "Jasper's beating him, isn't he?" I asked, my voice low but firm. Soo-jin smiled, pulling me closer by the waist. "That guy hit your bike during the race. He's just paying him back," Soo-jin said calmly, as if this kind of thing happened every day. I exhaled, now picturing what was happening behind me. I could already imagine Jasper's fists flying, his face hard with anger as he made the guy who kicked my bike regret every second of it. They hadn't even let me see what was going on, probably because they knew how brutally it looked like. I sighed, realizing there was no point in arguing. Soo-jin's arm tightened around me as he led me away from the scene, J-Hope and Jimin on either side of us, making sure I didn't look back. We were at the club now, nestled close together on the cushy leather seats of our booth, laughter and music swirling around us like a lively dance. Soo-jin was practically glued to my side, his warmth a constant reminder of our complicated relationship. I stole a glance at Jasper, who was trying to drown his frustrations in a drink. The red marks on his knuckles told the story of his earlier confrontation, and a smile tugged at my lips. As I observed Jasper, Soo-jin leaned in, brushing his lips against my cheek. It was sweet, and yet it felt like a performance I was obligated to maintain. It had been a year since we started dating, and everyone in the J Squad knew that I didn't really love him. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as Jimin flopped down onto Jungkook's lap, his expression mischievous. "Darling," he cooed, wrapping his arms around Jungkook's neck, seemingly oblivious to the tension. Jungkook sighed, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Jimin, back off. If anyone sees you like this, no one will take you seriously." Jimin just smirked, a devil-may-care attitude radiating from him. "I don't care anyone when my boyfriend is that muscular." With a playful shove, Jungkook sent Jimin sprawling to the side of the couch. "Stop flirting, people are going to think we're dating," he exclaimed, exasperated. "But you're so hot, Jungkook." Jimin shot back, laughter bubbling among our group. "Jimin," Jungkook shouted, throwing his hands up in frustration, and the entire booth erupted into fits of laughter. Amidst the chaos, Soo-jin turned me around to face him, his eyes shining with mischief. "Tomorrow will be the best day for you, so be ready," he whispered, leaning in closer. I raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on my lips. "Oh, you won't forget tomorrow either. I promised." His cheeks flushed at my words, and I could see his mind racing with thoughts of what that could mean, but he had no idea how different my plans truly were. Taehyung's paw. I stood on the top floor of the university, hidden in the shadows of the dimly lit corner, my back pressed against the cold wall as she pulled me closer. Her lips moved hungrily against mine, and I growled, deepening the kiss. Her hands roamed boldly, slipping inside my pants, and I responded with a more aggressive pull, gripping her waist and yanking her closer. The heat between us was electric, the tension undeniable. My mind was drowning in the moment, until, of course, No's voice broke through the haze. "Taehyung, bro. Damn it, of all times, why now? This guy, I swear I'm going to kill him one day." I broke the kiss, irritated, and glanced in his direction. He was walking toward me with 2 plane tickets in his hand, completely oblivious to the mood he just ruined. I sighed, pulling away from her. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek before heading off, leaving me standing there, trying to shake off the frustration. No's mouth was hanging open as he approached, his eyes wide with disbelief. "How did you trap her, bro? She's the most untouchable girl on campus, and you got her too." I smirked, leaning back against the wall as I fixed my belt. "No girl can resist me when I kiss them, Noah. I'm Kim Taehyung." Noah chuckled, shaking his head in amazement. Yeah, your seduction skills are legendary. Teach me your ways, bro. No one stands a chance against you." I laughed, slapping his shoulder. "First, learn to be a man, then we'll talk." He kicked me playfully, and I laughed even harder, feeling the tension from earlier dissolve. Noah tossed one of the plane tickets at me, and I caught it midair, noticing there were 2 tickets. Noah nodded with a grin. "I'm coming with you on this vacation, bro. I've always wanted to see Korea." I gave him a suspicious look, raising an eyebrow. "Korean girls are your new target, huh?" Noah smirked, not denying it, and I chuckled, shaking my head at him. I pulled out my phone to call my Soo Jin Hung to inform him about my flight. As the phone rang, I leaned against the wall, waiting for him to pick up. Hung. Girl, sorry, but I'm not your Hung. Your Hung is lying beside me, sleeping. My mouth fell open in shock. Who the hell was this? I stammered, caught off guard. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I didn't realize. She chuckled softly, clearly enjoying my discomfort. Don't worry, we didn't do anything, 18 plus, if that's what you're thinking. He just passed out after 3 drinks. Now my mouth was practically on the floor. What was happening? I quickly gathered myself and asked the obvious question. Are you his girlfriend? Yes, I am, and you must be his brother, right? I nodded to myself, still dumbfounded by the boldness of this girl. Yeah, I'm his brother. If he's sleeping, I'll call him back later. I quickly ended the call, my mind spinning. What was that? I turned to Noah, who was watching me with curiosity. What happened? You look like you just saw a ghost. Hung's choice in women is making me lose my mind, bro. I said. Noah looked confused, but I just shook my head, running my hand through my hair. That girl knew who I was and didn't even hesitate to talk like that. She said he's passed out after just 3 drinks, but man, she's so bold. I mean, who does that? I couldn't wrap my head around it. My brother, usually so careful and controlled, now dating someone who wasn't afraid to banter with his younger brother like that. Oh God, what was going on in his life? And why did it feel like things were only getting weirder? I sighed, slumping back against the wall as Noah clapped me on the back, laughing at my bewildered expression. Looks like your Hung's got some wild stories of his own. I shook my head, still trying to process it all. It was late at night. I stood in the kitchen, gulping down a glass of water, trying to clear my head. I pulled out my phone, thinking now would be a good time to call Hung. It was night here, but morning in Korea, so he should be awake by now. Maybe I could figure out what had happened with that girl from earlier. As I dialed his number, the phone rang once before the call abruptly ended. His phone was dead. I frowned, confused, staring at the blank screen. Hung never let his phone die. Something felt off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I was about to head back to my room when a notification buzzed on my phone. It was a video, sent from one of my friends back in Korea, the ones who study at the same university as my Hung. Must be something funny, I muttered, figuring it was just another joke or some random thing happening on campus. But as the video finished downloading, and I clicked it open, the casual thought vanished, replaced by a wave of shock that hit me like a truck. My eyes widened as I watched the screen. What the? But it wasn't just that. No. I clenched my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white, my jaw locked in silent fury. How dare she? I muttered under my breath, my heart pounding in my chest.